Zara Valdez had never been the type to steal anything in her life, but apparently parking spots didn't count because she'd been taking the same one for 3 weeks straight without a second thought. She pulled her beat-up Honda Civic into the premium spot right at 7:15 every morning, the closest space to the main entrance of Thompson Industries headquarters. The building housed 40 different companies, and Zara worked on the third floor as a graphic designer for a small marketing firm called Bright Wave Creative. The pay was decent, the work was fulfilling, and the coffee in the break room was terrible but free. Life was simple and predictable, exactly how she liked it. What Zara didn't know was that the spot belonged to someone. Someone who arrived at 7:30 every morning and found his designated parking space already occupied by a cherry-red Honda with a dent in the rear bumper and a collection of houseplant stickers on the back window. Ethan Turner stood 6'3" with broad shoulders that filled out his custom suits perfectly. At 32, he'd built Turner Luxury Hospitality from a single boutique hotel into a chain of 25 high-end properties across the country. His company occupied the entire top floor of Thompson Industries building, and his reserved parking spot had cost him $5,000 extra per year. But for 3 weeks now, he'd been parking in the general lot and walking the extra distance, watching a dark-haired woman in worn jeans and oversized sweaters climb out of that Honda and rush toward the building entrance with a coffee tumbler in one hand and her bag sliding off her shoulder. He could have had her car towed, could have left a note, could have been waiting by the car one morning to tell her she was in his spot. But Ethan didn't do any of those things. Instead, he found himself arriving earlier and earlier, just to catch a glimpse of her before she disappeared into the building. There was something about the way she moved, always slightly rushed but never quite panicked, always humming something under her breath that he couldn't quite hear. His assistant Marcus had noticed after the first week. "Sir, that Honda is in your spot again." "I'm aware," Ethan had replied, not looking up from his phone. "Should I call building security?" No. Marcus had given him a curious look but didn't push further. By week 2, Marcus stopped mentioning it altogether. By week 3, he started leaving subtle hints about Ethan's increasingly strange behavior, like the fact that he now stood by his office window at 7:15 every morning, coffee in hand, watching the parking lot. "You know, if you wanted to meet someone, there are apps for that," Marcus had suggested carefully. Ethan had given him a look that could freeze water. "I'm not on dating apps, clearly. You're apparently into parking lot surveillance instead. I'm observing. There's a difference. Right. Observing the woman who's been stealing your parking spot for 3 weeks. The spot you paid $5,000 for. The spot you refused to reclaim." Ethan had no good answer for that, so he'd gone back to his emails and pretended the conversation never happened. But Marcus was right about one thing. Ethan was interested. More than interested. He was fascinated by this woman who had no idea she was taking something that belonged to him, who smiled at strangers in the elevator and always held the door for people behind her. He'd learned her schedule without meaning to. 7:15 arrival. 6:30 departure, unless it was Thursday when she stayed until 8. She brought lunch from home in a canvas bag covered in paint stains. She was friends with the security guard named Roberto who worked the front desk. She laughed easily and often, the sound carrying through the lobby on the rare occasions when Ethan found himself passing through at the same time. He'd learned all of this without ever speaking a single word to her. It was pathetic, really. Ethan Turner, self-made millionaire with a net worth hovering around $80 million, too chicken to approach a woman about a parking spot. But there was something about her that made him want to keep watching, to figure her out before making his presence known. He told himself he was being strategic, waiting for the right moment. The truth was he had no idea what he was doing. The moment everything changed started like any other morning. Zara pulled into the parking spot at 7:15 sharp, singing along badly to a Taylor Swift song she'd had on repeat for the past week. She grabbed her coffee, her bag, and the portfolio case with her latest design mock-ups, juggling everything as she locked the car with her elbow. "Smooth," she muttered to herself, nearly dropping the portfolio. She was halfway to the entrance when she heard rapid footsteps behind her. "Excuse me." Zara turned to find a man in an expensive suit practically jogging toward her. He was tall, with dark hair and eyes that seemed almost gray in the morning light. Handsome in that intimidating way that made her immediately assume he was either a lawyer or someone's very serious bodyguard. "Hi," she said, adjusting her grip on her coffee. Ethan had no plan. He'd seen her drop her phone on the pavement by her car and had grabbed it without thinking. Now he was standing in front of her, holding out a phone in a case covered with the same houseplant stickers as her car, and he felt like an idiot. "You dropped this," he managed. Zara's eyes went wide. "Oh my God, thank you so much." She tried to take it, but her hands were too full. "Can you just, I'm sorry, this is awkward, can you maybe stick it in my bag? The front pocket." Ethan carefully unzipped the pocket of her canvas bag and slipped the phone inside. Up close, he could smell her perfume, something light and citrusy that made him want to lean closer. "You're a lifesaver," Zara said, beaming at him. "I would have had a heart attack when I realized it was gone. I'm Zara, by the way, Ethan." His voice came out rougher than intended. "Well, Ethan, you have officially made my entire week. I owe you one." She shifted her portfolio case. "I'd offer to buy you coffee, but clearly I'm a disaster with my hands full." "Maybe another time," Ethan heard himself say. Zara's smile widened. "Maybe so. I'm here every morning like clockwork, painfully predictable. I've noticed." The words came out before he could stop them. Zara raised an eyebrow, her smile turning playful. "Have you now? Are you a fellow early bird or have you been watching me, stranger?" Ethan felt heat creep up his neck. "I work in the building, same schedule." "Ah, a fellow sufferer of the morning grind. What floor?" "10th. Fancy, I'm on 3, much less fancy." She glanced at her watch, an old leather-banded thing that looked like it might have been her grandfather's. "I should run." "But seriously, thank you for the phone rescue. Maybe I'll see you around." "Maybe," Ethan said, even though he knew for certain he would see her tomorrow at 7:15 when she parked in his spot again. Zara gave him one more brilliant smile and headed for the entrance. Ethan stood in the parking lot like an idiot, watching her go and wondering what the hell had just happened to his carefully maintained control over his own life. Marcus was waiting by his office when Ethan arrived 20 minutes later. "You're late." "By 5 minutes." "You're never late." "Not even by 5 minutes." Marcus peered at him suspiciously. "Did something happen?" "I talked to her." "The parking spot thief." Ethan shot him a warning look. "Don't call her that." "Oh, this is serious." Marcus leaned against the doorframe, clearly settling in for details. "What did you say?" "I returned her phone. She dropped it." "How chivalrous." And nothing. We talked for maybe 2 minutes." But nothing," Ethan insisted, moving past Marcus into his office. "Can we focus on actual work? I have the Henderson meeting at 9. "The Henderson meeting isn't until tomorrow." Ethan stopped. "It's not Monday." Marcus's grin was insufferable. "It's Tuesday, boss. You're completely thrown off by a 2-minute conversation with a woman whose name you don't even know." "Zara," Ethan said before he could stop himself. "Her name is Zara." "Oh, you're in deep." Ethan wanted to argue, but Marcus wasn't wrong. He spent the entire day distracted, snapping at people during meetings and redoing emails 3 times before sending them. By 6:30, he found himself standing by the window again, watching as Zara emerged from the building, bags slung over her shoulder, talking animatedly to a woman with bright red hair. She gestured widely as she spoke, nearly hitting a passing businessman who gave her an annoyed look. Zara didn't notice, too caught up in whatever story she was telling. She was completely unself-conscious, Ethan realized. She moved through the world like she belonged everywhere and nowhere all at once, like she'd never spent a moment worrying about what other people thought of her. It was magnetic. His phone buzzed with a text from his brother Derek. "Dinner tomorrow. Mom's asking when she'll see you again." Ethan sighed and typed back a confirmation. His family meant well, but they didn't understand why he'd thrown himself into work so completely after his engagement had fallen apart 2 years ago. Claire had been beautiful, polished, perfect on paper. She'd also been sleeping with her tennis instructor for 6 months before Ethan found out. The betrayal had stung less than the realization that he'd felt almost relieved. He'd been building a life that looked right without ever stopping to consider if it felt right. Since then, he'd dated occasionally but never seriously. Work was easier. Work was controllable. Work didn't leave surprise holes in your chest when it walked away. But watching Zara Valdez steal his parking spot every morning and smile at strangers for no reason was making Ethan reconsider his carefully constructed walls. The next morning, Ethan arrived at 7. He told himself it was to catch up on emails, but he spent the entire 15 minutes watching the parking lot entrance. At 7:14, the Honda appeared, pulling into his spot with the same casual confidence as always. Zara hopped out, this time wearing a denim jacket over a yellow sundress, her dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. Ethan was out of the building before he'd made a conscious decision to move. "Morning," he called as she was locking her car. Zara turned, surprise registering on her face before it shifted into a warm smile. "Ethan, right? Phone rescuer extraordinaire. That's me. 2 days in a row, starting to think you might have that stalker thing going on." She was teasing, her eyes bright with humor. Just good timing. "Uh-huh." She fell into step beside him as they headed for the entrance. "So what does someone on the fancy 10th floor do? Let me guess. Lawyer, hotel management. Really? That's actually interesting. Are you like the manager or something?" Ethan hesitated. This was the moment where he usually mentioned Turner Luxury Hospitality, where recognition would dawn and the dynamic would shift. People treated him differently once they knew. But Zara was looking at him with genuine curiosity, no agenda behind it, and he found himself saying something like that. "I always thought running a hotel would be intense. All those moving parts, dealing with people at their worst when things go wrong." She held the door for an older woman struggling with a walker. "I just push pixels around a screen all day, significantly less drama." "You're a designer, graphic designer, yeah, for a marketing firm upstairs." "Well, not upstairs for you, downstairs. We're the little people." "I doubt that." Zara laughed. "You haven't seen our office. We're crammed into a space that probably used to be a storage closet, but I love it. My coworkers are great, the projects are fun, and I get to be creative. Can't really ask for more than that." They reached the elevator bank. Ethan pressed the up button, hyper-aware of how close she was standing. "Sounds like you found the right fit." "I think I did. Took me a while to get here, though. I spent 2 years after college doing freelance work from my apartment, slowly losing my mind from isolation. Turns out I'm one of those annoying people who needs human interaction to function." The elevator dinged and they stepped inside. Zara hit 3, then looked at him expectantly. Ethan pressed 10, watching the doors slide closed. They were alone in the small space, and he found himself searching for something to say to keep the conversation going. "So what made you finally take an office job?" My best friend staging an intervention. She literally showed up at my apartment with job listings and refused to leave until I applied to at least 5 of them. Bright Wave was the first to call back, and I knew in the interview it was right. Sometimes you just know. The elevator stopped at 3. Zara stepped out, then turned back. "Hey, this might be weird, but do you want to grab coffee sometime? Like, actual coffee, not whatever ambush coffee would be if I was carrying less stuff. You seem cool, and I don't know many people in this building yet." Ethan's heart did something complicated in his chest. "I'd like that." "Yeah." Her smile was brilliant. "Okay, cool. There's a place around the corner, Hugo's. Friday morning before work." "What time?" 6:30. "I know it's early, but I like to get there before the rush." 6:30 works. "Great, it's a coffee date." "Well, not a date. A coffee meeting. A coffee friend thing." Zara was blushing now, stumbling over her words in a way that Ethan found completely endearing. "I'm going to stop talking now. See you Friday." The elevator doors closed on her flustered expression. Ethan leaned back against the wall, a genuine smile pulling at his mouth for the first time in recent memory. Marcus took one look at him when he walked into the office and shook his head. "You're smiling. This is disturbing." "I have a coffee friend thing on Friday." "A what?" Her words, not mine. "You're going on a date with parking spot girl." "It's not a date. She said so herself." Marcus snorted. "Right, and I'm the king of England. Boss, she asked you out for coffee. That's a date." "She said she doesn't know many people in the building." "That's what people say when they want to get to know you specifically but don't want to seem too eager." Marcus sat down across from Ethan's desk, clearly not planning to leave anytime soon. "This is good. You need to get back out there." "I've been out there." "You've been on exactly 3 dates in the past year, all of them setups from your mother, and you complained about every single one." They talked about their Pilates instructors and their summer homes in the Hamptons. "And this one talks about what? Pixels, design work, creative projects. Things she actually cares about." Ethan heard the defensiveness in his own voice and tried to dial it back. "It's just coffee." "Keep telling yourself that," Marcus said, but he was grinning. "I'm happy for you, truly. You've been walking around like a robot in a suit for too long." Ethan wanted to argue, but he couldn't. Work had consumed him for 2 years, and he'd let it. It was safer than risking his heart again. But Zara had looked at him like he was just a guy, not a CEO, not a millionaire, just Ethan. And that was worth the risk of coffee. The next 2 days crawled by. Ethan found himself distracted during meetings, checking his watch constantly, counting down to Friday morning. He saw Zara twice more in passing, once in the lobby where she was arguing cheerfully with Roberto, the security guard, about whether hot dogs counted as sandwiches, and once getting into her car at the end of the day. Both times she'd waved at him with easy familiarity, like they were already friends. It should have been simple. It should have been easy. But Ethan kept thinking about the fact that he hadn't told her who he really was. Every day that passed made it harder to bring up casually. "Oh, by the way, I own the hotel company that takes up the entire 10th floor, and I'm worth $80 million. Wasn't exactly smooth conversation. He'd tell her Friday. He'd find a natural way to work it into conversation and clear the air. It would be fine. Friday morning arrived gray and drizzly. Ethan was at Hugo's by 6:20, early enough to feel pathetic about it. The coffee shop was small and warm, filled with the rich smell of espresso and fresh pastries. He ordered a black coffee and claimed a table by the window, trying not to watch the door like an anxious teenager. Zara arrived at 6:28, shaking rain from her hair. She was wearing jeans and an oversized green sweater, no makeup that he could tell, and she was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. "I'm not late," she announced, collapsing into the chair across from him. "I know I said 6:30, but I was worried about traffic and I hate being late, so I left super early and then I was way too early, so I circled the block twice, which is insane, I know." Ethan felt his anxiety dissolve. "I got here at 6:20. Really? Really?" Zara laughed, some of the tension leaving her shoulders. "Okay, so we're both nervous weirdos. Good to know. I'm going to get coffee. Do you want anything? I'm good." He watched her at the counter, chatting with the barista like they were old friends. She had that gift, he realized. The ability to make everyone feel seen and valued. The barista was smiling genuinely by the time Zara walked away with her drink. "So," Zara said, sliding back into her seat with an iced latte despite the cold rain outside. "Tell me something real. Not small talk. I want to actually know you." The directness caught him off guard. "What do you want to know?" "I don't know. What makes you happy? What keeps you up at night? What's the last thing that made you laugh so hard you couldn't breathe?" She took a sip of her drink, watching him over the rim. "I'll go first if you want. Fair trade." "No, I can go." Ethan thought about it, really thought about it. "Building something from nothing makes me happy. Watching an idea become real. I don't sleep much anyway, but when I can't, it's usually because I'm trying to solve a problem. And the last time I laughed that hard was watching you argue with Roberto about hot dogs." Zara's eyes went wide. "You heard that? Oh my God, that's so embarrassing." It was a solid argument. It was the correct argument. Hot dogs are absolutely sandwiches. Roberto is just stubborn. "I'm staying neutral on this." "Coward," she teased. "Okay, my turn. I'm happy when I'm making things, doesn't matter what. Art, designs, dinner, whatever. I love the process of creating. I worry about not being enough. Like I'm supposed to want more than I have, but I'm pretty content, and maybe that means I'm not ambitious enough." And the last time I really laughed was actually this morning when my roommate tried to cook breakfast and set off the smoke alarm for the third time this week. Third time. She's a disaster in the kitchen. Love her to death, but she could burn water. Zara leaned forward, her elbows on the table. "Your turn. Childhood dream job, architect." "Yeah, why didn't you do it?" "Life went a different direction. I'm happy where I ended up." "Do you still draw, design things?" The question surprised him. "Sometimes, on the side." "That's amazing." "You should show me sometime." She said it casually, like it was already a given that there would be future conversations, future moments. "I went to art school for a year before switching to graphic design. Turns out I like eating and paying rent more than I like being a starving artist." They talked for an hour, the conversation flowing easily from topic to topic. Zara told him about growing up in a small town in Oregon, about her parents who still called every Sunday and worried she was working too hard. Ethan found himself sharing more than he'd intended, about his brother Derek who worked in finance and his mother who volunteered at 3 different charities and never stopped trying to set him up with appropriate women. "Appropriate," Zara echoed, amused, her word, not mine. "What makes someone appropriate? Right background, right education, right connections." The words felt bitter in his mouth. "That sounds absolutely exhausting." "It is." Zara studied him for a moment, something shifting in her expression. "You're not just management, are you?" Ethan's chest tightened. "What makes you say that?" "The way you talk about building things from nothing, the custom suit, the fact that you're being weirdly vague about your job." She wasn't accusing, just observing. "It's okay if you don't want to tell me. I just don't want you to feel like you have to hide things." This was it, the moment to come clean. "I own the company, Turner Luxury Hospitality, the entire 10th floor," Zara blinked, once, twice. "You own it, like own it, yes. And you've been parking in the general lot because." Ethan felt heat creep up his neck. Because someone took my reserved spot. Understanding dawned slowly across her face, followed by horror. Oh my God, it's me. I took your spot. That spot is yours and I've been stealing it for a month. You didn't know. That doesn't matter. Why didn't you say something? Why didn't you have me towed? She was standing now, hands pressed to her face. Oh my God, I asked you for coffee. I asked the CEO whose parking spot I've been stealing for coffee. This is mortifying. Zara, sit down. I can't sit down. I need to go apologize to your car. Do you have a Ferrari? Please tell me I haven't been blocking a Ferrari. I drive a Tesla. That's not better. That's worse. Electric cars are good for the environment and I've been preventing you from using yours. She was spiraling, pacing in the small space between tables while other customers watched with interest. Ethan stood and gently caught her wrist. Zara, look at me, she did, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to stop taking the spot. That makes no sense. I know, but it's true. He was still holding her wrist, aware of how small her bones felt under his fingers. I liked watching you park there every morning. I liked that you had no idea who I was. I liked everything about it. You liked me stealing from you. I liked you. The words hung between them. Zara's eyes went wide, her lips parting in surprise. Around them the coffee shop had gone quiet, everyone openly listening now. Oh, Zara said softly. I should have told you sooner. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I'm the parking spot thief. You're not a thief. I gave it to you. You gave me a $5,000 parking spot. How did you know it cost $5,000? I looked into getting a reserved spot when I first started. They're insanely expensive. She finally sat back down and Ethan followed. This is crazy. You're crazy. Probably. I'm serious. You're a millionaire CEO and you've been following me around like a lost puppy because of a parking spot. When you put it that way, it sounds bad. It sounds unhinged. But she was smiling now, that brilliant smile that made his chest feel too tight. I can't decide if it's sweet or if I should be calling security. Roberto already thinks I'm stalking you. He warned me off last week. He did what? Said if I kept hanging around the lobby at your arrival time, he'd have words with me. Zara laughed, the sound bright and clear. That's so Roberto. He's weirdly protective. She took another sip of her coffee, eyeing Ethan over the rim. So, Mr. CEO, what happens now? Now you know the truth. And I'd like to keep having coffee with you if you're not completely freaked out. I'm like 60% freaked out, Zara admitted, but also kind of flattered. A millionaire has been pining over me from afar. That's very rom-com of you. I don't pine. You absolutely pine. You're a piner. You probably have sad playlists and everything. Ethan felt a smile tugging at his mouth despite himself. I don't have sad playlists. Liar. She leaned back in her chair, studying him with those bright, clever eyes. Okay, here's the deal. I'll keep having coffee with you. I'll even stop stealing your parking spot. Don't. What? Keep the spot. I want you to have it. Ethan, that's insane. I know, but I mean it. Zara shook her head, but she was smiling. You're going to give me a complex. I'm going to start thinking I can just take whatever I want and millionaires will appear to give it to me. Just this millionaire. Smooth. They stayed at Hugo's until almost 8, long past when they should have left for work. The conversation never lagged, never felt forced. Ethan learned that Zara was allergic to shellfish, but kept forgetting and ordering shrimp. That she'd wanted to be a veterinarian until she discovered she couldn't handle seeing animals in pain. That she collected vintage postcards from places she'd never been. Zara learned that Ethan had a scar on his left shoulder from a skiing accident at 14. That he'd never been to Europe, despite owning 2 hotels in Paris through a partnership deal. That he played piano, but only when no one was listening. By the time they finally left, the rain had stopped and the morning felt fresh and new. They walked back to the building together, neither seeming to want the conversation to end. "Same time next week?" Zara asked as they reached the entrance. "Or sooner?" Eager. "Yes." The honesty of it seemed to catch her off guard. She bit her lip, a gesture that drew his attention to her mouth for probably too long. "Dinner," she said suddenly. "Tomorrow night if you want. I want." "Okay, good, great." She was blushing again, fumbling with her bag. "I'll text you. I mean, I don't have your number, so I'll give you mine. If you want it." Ethan pulled out his phone, handing it to her. She typed in her number, her fingers flying over the screen. When she handed it back, he saw she'd added herself as parking spot thief. "Cute," he said dryly. "I thought so." She grinned at him one more time, then headed for the elevators, throwing a wave over her shoulder. Ethan stood in the lobby, watching her go and feeling like the ground had shifted under his feet. Roberto appeared at his elbow. "That the girl from 3? Yeah. You tell her about the parking spot." "I did." "She didn't slap you?" "Not yet." Roberto chuckled, shaking his head. "You're lucky. She's a good one. Don't mess it up." "I'll try not to." Ethan rode the elevator to 10, feeling lighter than he had in years. Marcus was going to have a field day with this, but he didn't care. For the first time since Claire, he felt like he was moving forward instead of just treading water. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Zara. Just making sure you didn't give me a fake number like we're in a bad movie. Also, I promise I'll park somewhere else starting Monday." He typed back quickly. "Don't you dare. And this is definitely my real number." Her response came seconds later. "Stubborn, I like it. See you tomorrow night, Turner." Ethan saved her contact, changing the name from parking spot thief to just Zara, and tried to focus on the 17 emails waiting for his attention. He managed about 3 before giving up and spending the rest of the morning staring out the window at the parking lot, at the cherry-red Honda in his spot, and smiling like an idiot. Dinner, the next night, was at a small Italian place Zara loved, tucked into a neighborhood Ethan had never explored. It was nothing like the restaurants he usually frequented. No dress code or reservation list. Just good food and checkered tablecloths, and a waiter who called Zara Han, like she was a regular. "I used to come here with my roommate every Friday," Zara explained, tearing into the breadbasket with enthusiasm. "But she started dating this guy who hates Italian food, so now I'm here solo most weeks. Which is fine, except I always order too much and end up eating leftovers for 3 days. What's wrong with that?" "Nothing, except I really need to learn portion control." She offered him the basket. "Fair warning, once you try this bread, every other bread will be a disappointment." She wasn't wrong. Ethan had eaten at Michelin-starred restaurants across the country, but something about this simple bread with olive oil and herbs was perfect in a way he couldn't quite articulate. They ordered too much food, splitting dishes and stealing bites from each other's plates. Zara told him about the disaster project she was working on, a client who kept changing their mind and adding requirements. Ethan found himself offering suggestions, drawing on his own experience with difficult partners and impossible demands. "You're good at this," Zara said, twirling pasta around her fork. "The advice thing, you should have been a consultant. Too much travel," says the man who owns hotels. "I prefer to build them, not live in them." "Fair point." She took a sip of wine, studying him over the glass. "Can I ask you something? Anything? Why hotels? What made you choose that specifically?" Ethan set down his fork, considering the question. No one had asked him that in years. People assumed it was about money, about prestige, about building an empire. "My parents used to take my brother and me on road trips every summer. Nothing fancy, just driving up the coast or into the mountains. We'd stay at these small motels and my dad would always complain about something. The beds were too hard, the water pressure was terrible, the walls were thin. But my mom would make it an adventure. She'd say every place had character, every room told a story. Zara was listening intently, her fork forgotten on her plate. When I was in college, working part-time at a hotel to pay for school, I saw both sides. The guests who were disappointed, the staff who were overworked, the owners who cut corners. And I thought about what my mom said about character and stories. I wanted to build places that had both. Where people felt taken care of, where the staff was respected, where every detail mattered. He paused, feeling self-conscious. That probably sounds naive. It sounds beautiful, Zara said softly. Have you succeeded? Do your hotels have character? I think so. I hope so. I'd like to see one sometime. I'd like to show you. The conversation shifted to lighter topics, but something had deepened between them. By the time they left the restaurant, full and slightly wine-buzzed, it felt natural for Ethan to take her hand as they walked to where he'd parked his car. I can't believe you drove a Tesla to a neighborhood with street parking, Zara said, eyeing a tight spot between two trucks. That's brave. I can park. Men always say that. Watch me. He parallel parked perfectly on the first try, pulling in smooth and even. Zara applauded mockingly. Okay, I'm impressed. That was actually flawless. Told you. He drove her back to her apartment, a small building in a neighborhood full of grad students and young professionals. Zara directed him to a visitor spot, then made no move to get out of the car. I had a really good time, she said finally. So did I. Even though I made you eat at a place with plastic grapevines on the walls, especially because of that. She smiled, soft and genuine. You're sweet. Under all the CEO intimidation factor, you're actually just sweet. Don't tell anyone, it'll ruin my reputation. Your secret's safe with me. She reached for the door handle, then paused. Ethan? Yeah, this is a real date, right? Not a coffee friend thing. This is definitely a real date. Good, just checking. She leaned across the console and pressed a quick kiss to his cheek, her lips warm and soft. Good night, Turner. She was out of the car before he could respond, jogging up the steps to her building and disappearing inside. Ethan sat in the parking lot for a full minute, his hand pressed to where she'd kissed him, feeling like a teenager after his first date. His phone buzzed. Marcus. How was dinner? Good. That's it, just good. Great. Dinner was great. You're killing me. Details. Ethan smiled and put the car in reverse. Later. The next few weeks fell into a pattern. Coffee at Hugo's twice a week before work, dinner at least once, and stolen moments throughout the day when their schedules aligned. Ethan found himself rearranging meetings to be free when Zara took her lunch break, making excuses to walk through the third-floor hallway on his way to nowhere in particular. She'd pop up to the 10th floor sometimes, bringing him coffee or just stopping by to say hello, charming his entire staff in the process. Marcus was insufferably smug about the whole thing. I told you parking lot surveillance would pay off. You told me I was being creepy. Both things can be true. Derek met Zara 3 weeks into their relationship when Ethan brought her as his date to their mother's birthday dinner. He'd been nervous about it, knowing his family could be overwhelming, but Zara had handled it like she handled everything else, with warmth and genuine interest. Your mom is wonderful, she told him afterward, sitting in his car outside her apartment. I can see where you get your stubbornness. She liked you. How can you tell? She asked if you were staying for coffee. She only does that when she approves. What happens if she doesn't approve? Dinner ends at 8 sharp and there's suddenly an early morning commitment no one can miss. Zara had laughed, delighted. Your family is devious. I love it. But it was Derek who pulled Ethan aside later that week, meeting him for lunch with a serious expression. "I like her," Derek said without preamble. "Good. But have you told her everything?" "What do you mean, about Claire?" "About why you shut down for 2 years, about the trust issues and the control thing you've got going on." Ethan felt his jaw tighten. "That's not relevant." "It's absolutely relevant. You're falling in love with this girl, don't even try to deny it. She deserves to know what she's getting into." "I'm not the same person I was with Claire." "No, you're worse. You're more guarded, more careful, and eventually Zara's going to push against that and you're going to panic." "I'm not going to panic." Derek gave him a look. "Just talk to her, be honest. That's all I'm saying." But Ethan didn't talk to her. Things were good, better than good, and he didn't want to drag up his past failures and insecurities. Zara made him feel light, uncomplicated. Why would he want to burden that with stories about his ex-fiancée's betrayal? The first crack appeared 2 months into their relationship. Ethan had a business dinner with potential investors, something that had been scheduled for weeks. But at the last minute, one of Zara's co-workers called in sick, and she had to cover a presentation she'd been planning to skip. "I'm so sorry," she texted. "I know we had plans, but this client is huge and I can't miss it. It's okay, we'll reschedule. You're sure? I feel terrible." "Zara, it's fine, work happens." Except it wasn't fine. Ethan found himself irritated throughout his dinner, distracted and short with the investors. He kept checking his phone, watching for updates from Zara that didn't come. By the time he got home, it was past 11, and he was wound tight with an anxiety he couldn't name. His phone rang at 11:30. Zara, her voice exhausted. "Hi, are you still up?" "Yeah, I just got home. The presentation ran long and then the client wanted to have drinks to discuss next steps and I couldn't say no." She sighed. "I missed you tonight." "I missed you too." "You sound weird. Are you mad?" "No, Ethan. I'm not mad. I'm just tired." There was a pause. "Okay, I'll let you go then. Sleep well." She hung up before he could respond, and Ethan was left staring at his phone, feeling like he'd just made a mistake but not sure what it was. The next morning, Zara's spot in the parking lot was empty. She texted him at 7:30. "Running late. See you later." He didn't see her that day or the next. They texted surface-level messages that felt wrong after months of deeper conversation. By Thursday, Ethan was going quietly insane. Marcus found him standing by the window at 7:15 watching the parking lot. "She's not coming. She parked on level 2. I saw her when I came in. She's avoiding me." "Then go talk to her." "And say what? How about the truth?" "That you're sorry for being weird and distant when she had to cancel plans for work." Marcus crossed his arms. "This is what I was afraid of. You're self-sabotaging." "I'm not." "You absolutely are. She did nothing wrong and you pulled away. Now she's giving you space because she thinks that's what you want, and you're spiraling because you actually want the opposite." Ethan wanted to argue, but Marcus was right. He'd spent so long protecting himself that he didn't know how to be vulnerable anymore, and Zara deserved better than that. He took the elevator to 3, walking through the hallways until he found Bright Wave Creative's small office. Through the glass door, he could see Zara at her desk, headphones on, completely absorbed in whatever she was designing. Ethan knocked softly. Zara looked up, surprise crossing her face. She pulled off her headphones and came to the door. "Hi," she said carefully. "Can we talk? I'm working, please." Something in his voice must have gotten through because she nodded and grabbed her jacket. They walked to an empty conference room down the hall, closing the door behind them. "I'm sorry," Ethan said before she could speak. "I was an idiot the other night. You did nothing wrong and I made you feel like you had. I don't understand what happened. One minute everything was fine, the next you were ice cold. I know, and I owe you an explanation." He took a breath, forcing himself to be honest. 2 years ago, I was engaged to a woman named Claire. We were together for 3 years, planning a wedding, building a life, and then I found out she'd been cheating on me for months. Zara's expression softened. "Ethan, the thing is, I wasn't even that devastated about losing her. I was devastated that I'd missed the signs, that I'd let myself be that blind. And I promised myself I wouldn't do that again. I'd stay in control, keep my guard up. And then I canceled plans and you thought I was pulling away. Not logically, but emotionally, yeah. And instead of talking to you about it like an adult, I shut down." Zara moved closer, taking his hands in hers. "I'm not Claire, I know. And if you want this to work, you have to trust me. Actually trust me, not just say you do." "I want to." "I'm trying." "Try harder," she said, but there was no anger in it, just firm honesty. "Because I'm falling for you, Ethan, really falling, and I can't do that alone." His heart felt too big for his chest. "You're falling for me." "Obviously. Why else would I let you keep buying me fancy dinners and putting up with your CEO nonsense?" "My CEO nonsense?" "The way you alphabetize your apps. The fact that you color code your calendar. The completely insane parking spot situation." She was smiling now, her thumbs rubbing circles on his palms. "You're a lot, Turner, but you're my lot." Ethan pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her and burying his face in her hair. She smelled like citrus and coffee and something uniquely her, and he felt the tight knot in his chest finally loosen. "I'm falling for you too," he said quietly. "Past tense. Already fell." "Good," she murmured against his shoulder. "Now can we please go back to normal? I've missed you." "I've missed you too." They stood there for a long moment, holding each other in the empty conference room while fluorescent lights hummed overhead. It wasn't romantic or cinematic, but it was real, and that mattered more than anything. Things shifted after that conversation. Ethan made a conscious effort to be more open, to share what he was feeling instead of retreating into himself. Zara met him halfway, patient when he struggled and gentle when he stumbled. They fell into new rhythms. Sunday mornings at the farmer's market, where Zara would buy weird vegetables she'd never heard of, and Ethan would carry her bags and try to talk her out of exotic mushrooms. Wednesday nights cooking dinner together at his place, a modern condo downtown that Zara had immediately started filling with plants and art prints. Friday afternoons leaving work early to catch matinee movies, sitting in the back row and sharing popcorn like teenagers. Ethan's mother adored her, inviting Zara to family dinners and charity events with increasing frequency. Derek pulled Ethan aside after one such dinner and said simply, "Don't screw this up." "I'm trying not to. She's good for you. You actually seem happy." Ethan couldn't argue with that. He was happy, in a way he wasn't sure he'd ever been before. Claire had been about building the right life on paper. Zara was about building a real life, messy and imperfect and completely genuine. 4 months into their relationship, Ethan invited Zara to visit one of his hotels. They drove up the coast to Monterey, where Turner Luxury Hospitality had recently opened a boutique property overlooking the water. "This is stunning," Zara breathed as they pulled up to the entrance. The building was all glass and natural wood, designed to blend seamlessly with the coastal landscape. "Wait until you see inside." He'd personally overseen every detail of this hotel, from the locally sourced art in each room to the sustainable materials used throughout. Walking through it with Zara, seeing it through her eyes, made him proud in a way business success never quite managed. "You built this," Zara said, standing in the lobby and taking it all in. "Like, actually built it from nothing." "I had a lot of help. Don't downplay it. This is incredible." She turned to him, her eyes bright. "This is what you meant about character and stories." Yeah. She walked to the windows overlooking the ocean, her reflection ghosted in the glass. Every detail here feels intentional. The colors, the textures, the way the light comes in. You created a space that makes people feel something. Ethan came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. That's what I wanted. That's always what I wanted. You succeeded. She leaned back against him. I'm really proud of you, you know that. Something tight and anxious that had been living in Ethan's chest for years finally, fully let go. This was it. This was the person he wanted beside him, the one who saw what he was trying to build and understood it, who was proud of his successes and patient with his failures. They spent the weekend at the hotel, swimming in the pool and eating at the restaurant and walking along the beach at sunset. On their last night, lying in bed with ocean sounds drifting through the open window, Zara turned to him. I love you, she said simply. I've been waiting to say it, trying to find the right moment. But I don't think there is a right moment. I just love you. Ethan felt his breath catch. I love you too, so much it scares me sometimes. Good scary or bad scary, good scary, the kind that means it matters. She kissed him then, soft and sweet and full of promise. And Ethan thought about parking spots and chance encounters and all the small moments that had led them here. Sometimes the best things in life started with something as simple as taking what didn't belong to you, and someone deciding to let you keep it anyway. The next few months blurred together in the best possible way. Zara moved some of her things into Ethan's place, claiming drawer space and leaving her art supplies scattered across his dining table. He gave her a key and changed his emergency contact information to her name. They adopted a cat from the shelter, a grumpy orange tabby that Zara named Mango despite Ethan's protests. Mango is not a cat name. Mango is a perfect cat name. Look at him. He's orange. It's thematic. Mango had immediately claimed Ethan as his favorite human, following him from room to room and sleeping on his pillow at night. Zara found this endlessly amusing. Work continued to be busy for both of them. Ethan was negotiating a partnership deal for 3 new properties, spending long hours in meetings and on calls. Zara landed a major client at Bright Wave, leading a rebranding campaign that had her working late into the evenings. But they made it work, stealing time where they could and never taking each other for granted. It was Roberto who finally brought up the parking spot again, almost 8 months after Zara had first taken it. You two figured things out, he said one morning as Ethan signed in at the desk. We did. Good, but I got to ask, when are you going to tell her? Tell her what? About the spot, the real story. Ethan frowned. What do you mean? Roberto leaned forward, lowering his voice. You think I didn't notice? You changed your arrival time. Used to get here at 7:30 sharp every single day. Then suddenly you're here at 7, sometimes earlier, always before she arrives. So I've been working this desk for 15 years. I know when someone's in love and doing something stupid about it. Roberto's smile was knowing. You changed your whole schedule to make sure you'd be here before her so you could watch her take your spot. You weren't just letting it happen, you were orchestrating it. Ethan felt caught out. Don't tell her. Why not? It's sweet in a weird, stalkerish kind of way. Because she already thinks the parking spot thing is insane. If she finds out I was actively arranging my schedule around it, she'll have me committed. Roberto laughed. Your secret's safe with me, but for what it's worth, she's a keeper. Don't let that one go. I don't plan to. That night, Ethan made dinner at his place while Zara worked late finishing up a presentation. She came in around 9, exhausted and paint-stained from some last-minute poster work. I'm a disaster, she announced, dropping her bag by the door. Please tell me there's food. There's food. And a bath running for you. Have I mentioned recently that I love you? Not in at least 3 hours. Criminal. She kissed him, quick and distracted, then headed for the bathroom. You're the best. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. While she was in the bath, Ethan plated the dinner and opened a bottle of wine. Mango wound around his ankles, meowing persistently until Ethan gave in and shared a piece of chicken. You're supposed to be on a diet, he told the cat. Mango ignored him as usual. Zara emerged 20 minutes later in one of his old T-shirts, her wet hair leaving damp spots on the shoulders. She looked young and soft and utterly beautiful. This smells amazing, she said, sliding into a chair at the table. What did I do to deserve you? Stole my parking spot. Are you ever going to let that go? Never. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes, the kind of quiet that only came from truly knowing someone. Then Zara set down her fork and looked at him seriously. Can I ask you something? Always. Where do you see this going? Us, I mean. Long term. Ethan's heart kicked up a beat. Where do you want it to go? I asked first. Fair. He took a breath. I see everything. Marriage, kids if you want them, growing old together and arguing about whose turn it is to feed the cat. That's Mango's job to handle himself. He's very independent. Zara. Sorry, deflecting through humor. It's a defense mechanism. She was blushing now, fidgeting with her napkin. I see that too, all of it. But I wanted to make sure we were on the same page before I started, getting my hopes up. Get your hopes up, Ethan said firmly. I want forever with you. However that looks, whatever that means. I'm in. Yeah, completely. She was around the table and in his lap before he could blink, kissing him thoroughly while Mango yowled in protest at the disruption to his dinner routine. I love you, Zara said between kisses. I love you so much. I love you too. They stayed like that, tangled together in the kitchen chair until Mango's protests became too insistent to ignore. Then they fed the cat and finished dinner and spent the rest of the evening on the couch, Zara's head in Ethan's lap while she sketched ideas for her next project, and he worked through emails. It was domestic and ordinary and absolutely perfect. Ethan bought the ring 3 weeks later. He'd enlisted Derek's help, his brother taking him to a jeweler he trusted and providing opinions when Ethan got overwhelmed by choices. Not that one, Derek said, pointing at a massive solitaire. Too flashy. She might like flashy. She drives a Honda with plant stickers. She's not a flashy person. Ethan ended up choosing a simple band with a modest diamond, elegant and understated. It felt like Zara, classic and beautiful without trying too hard. The hard part was figuring out how to propose. Ethan knew Zara well enough to know she'd hate anything too public or performative. But he also wanted it to be memorable, meaningful. He ran through dozens of ideas, each one feeling either too much or not enough. In the end, it was the parking spot that gave him the answer. Ethan spent a week planning, coordinating with building management and pulling strings. On a Tuesday morning in late September, he arrived at the parking lot at 5 in the morning with a crew of people and got to work. At 7:15, Zara pulled into her usual spot, singing along to the radio. She was halfway out of the car before she noticed that the pavement beneath her had been repainted. The lines were still there, still marking the space as a reserved spot. But now, painted in elegant script across the concrete, were the words reserved for Zara Valdez. She blinked, looking around in confusion. That's when she saw Ethan, standing by the building entrance with his hands in his pockets and a nervous smile on his face. What did you do? She called, walking toward him. Fixed a problem. By painting my name on your parking spot. It's not my spot anymore, it's yours, officially. Zara looked back at the painted letters, then at him. Ethan Turner, you are absolutely insane. I know, but you love me anyway, I really do. She was in front of him now, shaking her head with that smile that made his chest feel too full. Though I'm starting to question my judgment. Question it later. Ethan took her hands, his heart hammering. I have something to ask you. Oh, he dropped to one knee right there in the parking lot, pulling the ring box from his pocket. Zara's hands flew to her mouth, her eyes going wide. 9 months ago you took my parking spot, Ethan said. And I let you, because even then I knew you were special. I didn't know your name or anything about you, but I knew I wanted to keep seeing you every morning. Now I know everything, and I want every morning for the rest of my life. Zara Valdez, will you marry me? You proposed with a parking spot story, Zara said, and she was crying now, tears streaming down her face. That's the most ridiculous, perfect thing anyone has ever done. Is that a yes? It's an obvious yes. Of course yes. Ethan slid the ring onto her finger and stood, catching her as she threw her arms around his neck. They kissed in the parking lot while early morning commuters honked and whistled their congratulations. Somewhere above them, Roberto was probably watching from the security desk, shaking his head at the drama. I can't believe you painted my name on a parking spot, Zara said, laughing through her tears. Technically, it's on the pavement. The spot was already reserved. You know what I mean. I wanted you to know it's always been yours, from that first morning. You're going to make me cry again. Too late. She kissed him once more, soft and sweet. I love you, even though you're completely unhinged. I love you too. They were late for work that morning, stopping at Hugo's to celebrate with coffee and calling their families to share the news. Ethan's mother cried. Derek demanded to be the best man. Zara's parents insisted on flying out immediately to meet their future son-in-law properly. The wedding happened 6 months later, in March, when the weather was mild and the flowers were blooming. They kept it small, just family and close friends, at a garden venue outside the city. Zara wore a simple white dress and carried wildflowers. Ethan wore a navy suit and couldn't stop smiling. During his vows, Ethan mentioned the parking spot. I promise to always save you a space, he said. In my life, in my heart, in whatever comes next, you'll never have to look for a spot again. That's good, Zara said, wiping away tears, because I'm a terrible parker. The guests laughed. The ceremony continued, and when the officiant pronounced them married, Ethan kissed his wife like she was the most precious thing in the world, because she was. They honeymooned in Europe, finally visiting the Paris hotels Ethan had never seen in person. Zara dragged him to every museum and cafe, taking hundreds of photos and filling sketchbooks with drawings. Ethan watched her fall in love with the city and fell even more in love with her. Back home, life settled into a new normal. Zara moved the last of her things from her old apartment, officially making Ethan's place theirs. She took over the second bedroom as a studio, filling it with art supplies and reference books. Mango divided his time between Ethan's office and Zara's studio, accepting treats and attention from both with regal grace. A year after the wedding, they bought a house. Nothing massive, just a 3-bedroom craftsman with good light and a yard for the dog they were already talking about adopting. The parking situation was much simpler, a 2-car garage with plenty of room for Zara's Honda and Ethan's Tesla. No more parking spot wars, Zara said as they moved boxes in. I miss the drama. Liar, you love having me close. That too. 2 years into their marriage, Zara got pregnant. It wasn't planned, but it wasn't not planned, and when she showed Ethan the positive test, they both cried happy tears in their bathroom while Mango meowed impatiently for breakfast. We're having a baby, Zara kept repeating, like she couldn't quite believe it. We're having a baby, Ethan echoed, his hand on her still flat stomach. The pregnancy was smooth, all things considered. Zara got morning sickness that lasted all day and strange cravings for pickles and ice cream. Ethan became an expert at midnight food runs and foot rubs. They turned the third bedroom into a nursery, painting the walls a soft yellow and assembling furniture together. Derek was thrilled to become an uncle. Ethan's mother immediately started knitting tiny sweaters. Zara's parents visited for a month to help prepare, her father building bookshelves while her mother organized baby clothes. Their daughter was born in early December, a week before her due date. She came into the world screaming, healthy and perfect and absolutely furious about the whole experience. They named her Claire after Ethan's grandmother, with the middle name Rose after Zara's mother. "She's beautiful," Zara whispered, holding their daughter for the first time. "She looks like you," Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. "She has your stubbornness. Listen to those lungs." Claire continued to prove them both right as she grew. She had Zara's dark hair and easy smile, but Ethan's determination and focus. By 18 months, she was rearranging her toys by color and size, organizing everything she could reach. "She's going to be a nightmare as a teenager," Zara predicted, watching their daughter methodically sort blocks. "She's perfect. She's like you," which means perfect but also exhausting. Ethan pulled his wife close, kissing the top of her head. They stood together in the nursery, watching their daughter play, and he thought about how far they'd come from that first morning in a parking lot. Sometimes the best love stories started with the smallest moments. A stolen parking spot, a returned phone, a cup of coffee with a stranger who wasn't really a stranger at all, just someone you hadn't met yet. Zara still parked in her reserved spot every morning, the one